this is Carla and welcome to the studio. Welcome to first episode of Throwback Thursday. The purpose of Throwback Thursdays is to pull out some retired product that I have and put it to use. This week's episode will be using the Painted Harvest bundle, the Leaf Punch and the Painted Harvest stamp set. So let's get started. For my first card, I have a piece of thick, very vanilla cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. A piece of early Espresso cardstock, 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and a piece of very vanilla, 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. So first we're going to go ahead and we're going to burnish our card base like so, and then we're going to do some stamping. So the Painted Harvest stamp set is a photopolymer set, so we're going to need our foam. Actually, I am working on foam, so we won't need that. What I will need is some scratch paper, since we'll be kind of stamping off the edge of that. Okay, so the colors that of ink that I'm using today is Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, Pecan Pie, Early Espresso, and Crumb Cake. Okay, so first we're going to go ahead and we're going to stamp our big flower in Daffodil Delight. So we're going to go over here. One up here. And another one over here. Okay. Then we're going to take our more detailed image and we're going to stamp that in Pumpkin Pie. So these aren't going to line up perfectly, and that's fine. This kind of has that watercolor look to it. More. Over here. Okay. For our centers, we're going to do that in Pecan Pie. Kind of stamp it a couple of times just to kind of fill it in. Next one. Just kind of fills in that little gap. Oops. One more time. There we go. And then we're going to do the center of our flowers using the little dots in Early Espresso. Just going to stamp those in the center of the flowers. And then for a fill-in, we're going to use the detailed leaf. And we're going to use Crumb Cake ink. And we're going to stamp off. And we're just going to fill in a couple of places. Let's see. One up here. And Okay, and then we're going to stamp our greeting that says gather together and give thanks, and we're going to do that in early espresso. I actually should have stamped this before I stamped everything else just to make sure I would get it lined up. Okay, well, we don't think I'm going to get that lined up. I just missed a little bit and it shifted on me. Okay, so then we're going to take our little dots that we use for the center of our flowers. And we're going to use crumb cake. And with this as well, we're going to stamp off. And we're just going to randomly put some of these dots to fill in. Like so. Okay. Let's move our ink out of the way. Okay. Put it over there. Okay, so we're going to take our stamp piece and we're going to adhere it to our early espresso piece. Now the piece is just a little bit bigger, so there's just going to be a tiny border all the way around. Then we're going to go ahead and use our dimensionals, and we're going to pop this up. Each corner. And one in the middle so we don't have a saggy card. Okay. Go ahead and stick it onto our card base, like so. And then we're going to embellish. We're going to use the Retired Holiday Rhinestone Basic Jewels. This color here is Pumpkin Pie. And take your pick tool. And then we're just going to put 3 of these down. So we'll put one right here. And let's see, where else? Put it here. And another one up here. Okay, so that's our first card. On to the next one. Okay, so now for our second card. We're going to start off with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of polished pink cardstock scored at 4 1/4. A piece of basic white that measures 5 1/4 by 4. We have a basic white scrap 3 by 3. Another basic white scrap. We're going to be stamping and punching our leaves on that one. And then also a scrap of Melon Mambo that measures about 3 by 3. So first let's go ahead and fold and burnish our card base. Okay, put that aside. We're going to take our base and we're going to go ahead and stamp our greeting. It says your kindness means so much more than you will ever know. And we're going to stamp that in Pebble Path. And we're going to put that in the lower right hand corner. Just hold it there for a moment. Okay. We're going to put that aside because we're going to go ahead and emboss, use our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to emboss that. So we're going to go ahead on our 3 by 3 piece. We're going to go ahead and stamp our flower The fuller image, we're going to stamp that in polished pink. Just kind of put that in the middle. Okay. And then our more detailed, we're going to stamp that in Melon Mambo. Let's see. Put that right there. Okay, and for our center, we're going to stamp that in Pebble Path. Turn that here. Kind of fill that in. Actually, let's kind of stamp that off and fill that in a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and then for our little center, our little dot center, we're going to do that in Pebble Path as well. Okay, so that's ready to be die cut. This will be die cut. Now let's go ahead and stamp our leaves. So I found the easiest way to stamp this. There's a more detailed image and there's a filled in image. I found that it was easier to do the more detailed first. So I'm going to stamp that in Old Olive ink. So put one on this side. And then we'll go ahead and stamp another one over here. And then our filler, I'm going to go ahead and I found the easiest way to line this up is to go by the stem. It's off just a little bit, but it'll be okay because we're going to be punching that out. That is way off. We're going to redo that one. Let's see, can we fit that right here? That was like way too off for me. So we'll just do it again. Much better. Okay, so let's go ahead and close up these ink pads because we're going to be doing some punching and embossing and die cutting, and we don't want ink all over the place. Okay, so put those over there. So we're going to use our leaf punch. This was bundled with the stamp set when it was out. So we're just going to go ahead and punch out our leaves. And then this one I'm going to have to cut that one off. Okay, there's our other leaf. So let's go ahead and put those aside. And let's go ahead and bring our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine in. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to emboss this piece, and we're going to use the Retired Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. This is a really cool folder. I was so sad when it retired because it gives you a really nice subtle texture on your cards. So we're just going to line it up. There's actually a line right here that makes it easy to kind of line it up. So we're going to put that there. And then what we need to emboss a 3D folder, we're going to need our #1 base plate and our #4 gray embossing plate. So when you're embossing, what you want to do is you want to put the seam of the folder in first. This prevents you from damaging the embossing folder. And now we're just going to go ahead and run it through. Why aren't you going through? Okay, there we go. Oh, I know why it's not going through. Get rid of the cutting plate. Let's not break the machine. Okay, that's much better. Okay. So here's our embossed piece. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and die cut. So we're going to need our base plate, our number 2 plate, a cutting plate, and then we're going to go ahead and put our cardstock pieces down. And I am using the scallop die from the Retired Layering Circles dies. We're going to use that to die cut this piece of Melon Mambo cardstock. And this is from the Stylish Shapes dies. These are currently available. We're going to use that for our flower. So we're going to kind of center that. Put our other cutting plate on top. And go ahead and run it through. Okay. So now let's go ahead and pieces. Get rid of that. Let's go ahead and fold this up. We're done with this. Okay. Now let's go ahead and assemble our card. So I'm going to put some adhesive on our embossed piece. We're going to adhere that to our card base. Then we're going to adhere our stamped flower piece. Oops. Onto our scallop. Okay, and for our scallop, we're going to go ahead and pop that up. Just going to put 3 dimensionals on here, and I'm going to go a little bit more into the center rather than the outer edge, because the other those 2 leaves will be tucking underneath this. Okay. So we're going to put that right here. And then for our leaves, we're going to put 2 glue dots on them. These are leftover glue dots from a paper pumpkin. I have so many of these that they're still good, so I might as well go ahead and use them. Okay. Put 2 on there like that. Remove the paper backings. I'm going to go ahead and stick that and tuck that under like so. Stick this one here. And then we're going to use the Sweet Sorbet metallic woven ribbon. This is currently available in our annual catalog. And I'm going to go ahead and tie a little bit of a little bow. I like to tie my bows on the roll, so that way I'm not wasting any ribbon. This is really pretty ribbon. Okay, so just going to create a little bow. We're going to go ahead and trim it. I'm going to take another glue dot. I'm going to add one right here. We're going to stick our bow down. And what's nice about this ribbon, it's woven, so I like to just kind of separate the strands and floof it a bit. Gives it a nice touch. There we go. And then we're going to embellish it. We're going to use the 2021 to 2023 In Color jewels. These two are retired. So we're going to add one there. One down here. And another one up here. Okay, that's card number 2. Okay, for our last card. So the cardstock that we're using for this one, we have an 8.5 by 5.5 inch piece of Tranquil Tide cardstock scored at 4 1/4 inches. We have a piece of Pool Party that measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. A piece of Basic White that measures 3 by 3. A piece of Tranquil Tide that measures 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And then a 5 1/4 by 1 inch piece of In Color DSP. This is from the 2017 to 2019 In Color 6x6 Designer Series paper pack. This is retired, obviously. Okay, so first we're going to score. We're going to fold and burnish our card base, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to stamp first. So the colors of ink that I'm using is Pool Party, Tranquil Tide, and Early Espresso. So let's see, what do we want to start with first? We're going to start with our greeting, and our greeting is I am thankful for you, and we're going to stamp that in Early Espresso, and we're going to stamp it up in the upper right hand corner. So, and then we're going to stamp our flower. So our fuller image, we're going to stamp that in Pool Party, and we're going to put that down in this corner. Okay. And then for our more detailed, we're going to stamp that in Tranquil Tide. Tranquil Tide is such a pretty green color. Another one that I was sad when it retired. I'm going to put that right here. Okay. And then for our center, we're going to go ahead and stamp that in Early Espresso. And that one's way off. So we're going to go ahead and kind of fill it in. Like so. And then for our center, the little dots in the Early Espresso in the middle. And then we're going to do a little bit of spritzing. So let me go ahead and close these up. And go ahead and move all our other cardstock pieces so we don't get splatter all over. So I am using a tool that Stampin' Up! Sold like many moons ago. I think I got this when I first joined back in 2013. But I believe I've seen Ranger, I believe, or Tim Holtz. I thought I saw it in Hobby Lobby. So I'll find it on Amazon, see if I can find it on Amazon, and I'll link it down below in the description. So you slide my marker in there, so that way the tip here is gonna reach the felt tip of the marker, but not touching it. And so for this, I'm just gonna go ahead and just squeeze a couple of times. And I'm using my Crumb Cake Stampin' Right marker. Now you can do this also by flicking the tip in your lid, but I really don't want to damage my tips. Okay, so that piece is done. So for our next step, we're going to go ahead and emboss our pool party piece. So we're going to bring our machine in again. And we're going to use the Layered Leaves 3D embossing folder. This one too is retired. So being a 3D, we just need our base plate. This time I just have the base plate, not any other ones. We're going to line this in. Again, there's a line. You can line it up. Close it up. Put it on our plate, add our gray number 4 plate, and run it through. Okay, we can close this up. We're done. Okay. And there's our piece. Really pretty. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this piece and we're going to adhere it to our card base. Whoops, that is not supposed to happen. Okay, so we're going to put it down on our base. Like so. There's just going to be a little border. Okay, and then we have a piece of the DSP, so I'm going to actually go and just trim this. So we're just going to go snip right across, and then down here as well. Let's see. Okay, and we're going to adhere this down. Right about there. And we're going to take our stamp piece and we're going to attach it to our piece of Tranquil Tide. Now I'm going to put this kind of like at, kind of just have a little bit showing. Give it equal, like so. Okay, and then let's see what's next. We're going to use our linen thread, and I'm going to kind of come around, wrap this once, twice, and then I'm going to attempt to tie a bow while on camera. So do that. Actually not this. Okay. Hope I left myself enough to tie a bow. Okay, so we're just gonna slide this so it's up near top. This is going to be the test right here. Oh, don't split apart. Just barely. Okay. Try it again. I didn't leave myself enough to tie the bow. And I think we're just going to leave it as a knot because we'll be here like forever trying to get that figured out. So I'm just going to leave it as a knot, and I will trim it. Get rid of our little bits. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and we'll pop this up. Here. There. There. And one in the middle so it doesn't sag. Okay, and then we're going to stick it onto our card base about there, and then we're going to bling this up as well. We're going to use the Holiday Rhinestone Basic Jewels again. This time we're going to use this color. I don't know if it's Pool Party, Coastal Cabana, but it's the color goes well with this. So we're going to add 3 on here, and then 1 right up here. Okay, that's our third card. So let me go ahead and bring in our other 2 cards that we made. So this was our first one, our second one, and our third one. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Come back next Thursday and I will have another showcase of another retired product. I'll see you then. Bye bye.